What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome back to a reverse 1999 video. Alright guys, it's been a minute since I've done one of these, so I want to talk about Jessica and what she's all about and this banner that drops and should you be pulling for it. Now, Prydwen and also Iamrivenous have done a fantastic method of putting all together some numbers and talking about how good she is, and she is going to be probably the first real big plant carry in this game in terms of DPS. But we're going to talk a little bit about what she does, what she's all about, some of the teams that you should build, and the fact that she is going to have an event drop December 28th with her as she comes. So make sure you finish the story acts in our time with the rewards that are going to be dropping. There's going to be growth material, clear drops, and more. Of course, that is happening in the next 5 days. So Jessica is personally my most exciting unit coming out in a while because I've been trying to build a team around poison since I've been working on rabies. That was a while ago. So with that being said, guys, let's talk a little bit of Prydwen's situation here and talk about if you should pull for Jessica or not. Now, me, it's a no-brainer. I'm definitely going to be pulling for her. I've been saving up all of my tokens, so you guys can see here. I'm just working on, this is the challenge account, of course. The first time ever I've done my I3 was today. I got my Tooth Fairy to I3, so this is a character that I'm going to build alongside with Tooth Fairy and most likely put in, so there you go, you can see my first I3 right there. This again is my challenge account. I decided to start working on some 5s and 6 stars, obviously, as I mentioned to you guys, but Rabies is one unit that I've been trying to work with and see how well Rabies work with Jessica. Now, shout out to Iamrivenous for putting together a few things for me, and I'm going to talk to you guys real quick about his findings because he's got this whole spreadsheet, a fantastic spreadsheet that he's put together. So, Rabies will do somewhat around 4.2 to 4.5k DPR, including its own poison ticks. Rabies supplies 1 stack of poison each turn, lasting 1 round. Basically a simple +1 stack if you can allocate 1 IP to him every turn. Jessica can only reasonably supply 1 stack of poison by herself. Technically, you can get 2 stacks, but that requires no stacks on the enemy on turns 5, 8, 11, and then you trigger I3 to apply poison to get a second stack on turns 6, 9, 12 from her I1. That means Rabies will essentially increase her damage from 6,332 to 7,272. That's roughly about a 900 damage increase, or about 13% on all turns except 5, 8, 11. And from 7,272 to 8,211, that's an 11.5 increase on turns 6, 9, and 12. That's obviously when the poison triggers from her I3. Now, in comparison, Cornbloom debuff gives you an 8% increase and a 7% increase, but you only need to supply every 3rd turn because obviously her debuff works for 2 turns, right? Sotheby obviously is the best in slot, but I don't have Sotheby. So my goal here was to build around Rabies, Jessica, and Tooth Fairy. Now, let's look at Prydwen's example and what they suggest. And I think this is a very, very well put analysis. So shout out to those who put this together. So coming soon, combat carries. Should you pull TLDR, Jessica is one of the first proper plant carries, scaling her damage off of debuffs, especially the poison status. Despite her sledgehammer levels of damage per round while enemies are under the effect of poison, her team building options are extremely restricted and content dependent. So this is an interesting topic right here, and I think they do a good job covering this, and I think everyone should know about this as well, right? So Jessica is a 6-star carry of the plant Afflatus. She's focusing on exploiting the poison debuff, dealing increased damage with white blankie for every stack of poison on her target at 3 stacks. This attack deals a ridiculous amount of damage, nearing ultimate levels of reality damage modifier. So pretty insane when you can have the proper set of poison stacking on the enemy. Using Insight 1 and 3 and her ultimate, Gaze from the Forest, Jessica is able to inflict poison for herself, but it isn't consistent, nor does she inflict enough stacks to maximize her damage. As such, you want to pair her with Sotheby or a Kanjira who can keep Jessica's needs fueled. So again, because Rabies only gives the 1 extra poison versus the 2 with Sotheby and Kanjira can do, it lowers the amount of effectiveness that Rabies has in this. But that's all I currently have, so I'm going to still test it out to see if it's good enough to push content with Jessica. While her White Blankie spell is the star of the show, Jessica has access to decent AoE with good friends and Gaze from the Forest, especially if you plan to roll for her portrays. As strong as Jessica is numerically, she has a few imperfections, and this is what I was trying to get at. This is actually a really good statement right here. For one, her team building options are extremely restricted, as we talked about above, basically requiring Sotheby and Conjura to be present if you want to optimize her damage output. Secondly, she's extremely reliant on poison to stick, which may be hard during patches, limbos, rotations that don't favor the plant Afflatus, or opponents that outright cleanse poison inflicted on them. Still, due to her outright DPT ceiling, Jessica makes a name for herself as a very powerful carry. So something to note, if you don't plan to run a full poison team, Jessica will not give you the best results. That's the main thing, okay? So remember that. So she is, though, from a pro's perspective, has one of the highest constant damage outputs in the game if you are running it with that poison team. Remember, it has to be the poison team. One of the few units that can properly benefit from Blaster of Night. We'll talk more about that due to her natural team building needs, and properly dominates a lot of content when allowed to by the devs patch limbo rotation based. So here's where the problems start. Exceedingly restrictive again, can do decent damage without them, but it's not comparable whatsoever. Hard to utilize when plant isn't favored by patch or limbo rotations, unless less gimmicky Arcanists. Mathematically, her Portray 2 was a DPT loss due to its overlapping with her Insight 3, causing it to lose its effectiveness when fighting opponents that don't actively cleanse poison. So, very important to note, very restrictive, right? I've been trying to build a poison team, so this is down my alley. This is what I want. But if you're not going to build a poison team, you may want to reconsider pulling for her and wait for the next unit to drop. And this may help you understand more about what she's capable of, right? So keep that in mind. All right, so next up, as noted in the cons, Jessica's Portray 2 is actually mathematically a DPT loss. This loss in damage is, of course, quite minimal. It is just an overlap in poison application, which is 30% Genesis damage. Additionally, the DPT loss is easily made up for additional portrays. However, Jessica doesn't necessarily need any portrays to do what she does best. And I'm not planning to go for anything but just the 0 portrays, just the original character pull, okay? Blast from the Night, as mentioned before, this is extremely important for her because it does Incantation Might, but more importantly, when the carry attacks, if the target has 2 or more negative statuses, so the poisons, she does more damage. You go up to 24% more damage, which is perfect for her because this is what you want her to utilize. You constantly always want 2 or more poison stacks on there. So very, very good for her. Probably the best one, if not Hopscotch, a second in command. So these two here are going to be her best ones. Her best synergies: Sotheby, Ananlee, Cornbloom, Medicine Pocket. Okay, these are the options. Here's the best teams. These are this is the whale team. Jessica main carry, Cornbloom or Sotheby. Realistically, I think Cornbloom is a better option, but Ananlee is great as well. And then you have yourself, of course, Sotheby to keep the poison stacks up. So this is how it works. Okay, note that Jessica's damage caps out at 3 caps of poison, which is struggles to inflict on her own. So this is why Sotheby is so important to have. Due to the importance of Sotheby as a key unit in her slot, though this will make a loss of powerful synergy, such as Cornbloom for reality defense and Ananlee for a powerful offensive and defensive buff. So you can either buff or debuff, your choice. But Sotheby is almost an essential point here to get the max amount of damage out of her. Now, this is the one I wanted to go with because technically I'm not a whale. I am a free-to-play player. So I'm going to go Jessica first. Rabies probably here to stack a little bit more poison. And then, because I have Cornbloom, but I haven't built her yet. And then Lasource here probably as my backup, or Tooth Fairy. In this case, probably Tooth Fairy will be a better choice for me. And then that's where we're going to stick. Now, if I can possibly get myself Sotheby along the way, I'll obviously replace Rabies with Sotheby and then go from there, right? So you guys can see here, while Jessica's damage is lower considerably not having Sotheby on the team, it is theoretically functional if you want to poison applications for your deer. You may look for Rabies for help. He inflicts poison on all attacks using his Inside 1, allows Jessica to somewhat awkwardly increase her damage, and it's true. Is this strategy more viable than running Cornbloom? Not very likely, but I still want to test it. That's my goal. So this is what I'm going to be doing, guys. Personally, let me know if you plan to go for Jessica after knowing all this information. Is she the right unit for your account? And if not, I suggest saving. If you plan to build a poison team, let me know what you guys are running with now. But these guys are going to be probably what I'm going to start with, along with Tooth Fairy. Now, because Tooth Fairy does provide crit resist and a lot of other options, I may even add a crit buff or a crit Psycube on Jessica to see if we can add more crit to the damage that she does. But again, I'll have to do a little bit of testing here. Shout out to Iamrivenous again for providing me some with them details and numbers. But again, I still want to do my own testing. I love doing that kind of thing. But let's just hope Sotheby comes along with this banner. All right, guys, this is Payne. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take care.